Greetings and welcome to my channel, guys. To get you into Halloween spirit, here are some true scary stories from Reddit that I have found interesting. So just chillax and enjoy. I was followed. To start off with some background, I'm a female and at the time this happened I was about 12 years old. I lived in the quiet suburb in South Carolina at the time and used to spend hours just walking my dog around the neighborhood because there wasn't much else to do. At the time we had 70-pound basset hound named Rufus, who looked kind of like a sawed-off Saint Bernard. So I was walking him around late in the afternoon in the fall and it started to get dark. I was on the other end of the neighborhood from my house when I first saw a beat-up rusty red pickup truck just kind of driving around. I didn't think a whole lot about it, because in the south so pickup trucks are all over the place around here and don't automatically mean anything. But as I was walking home I saw the truck cross a street I was going past and then come back out the other end further down and go back the way I came from. To give you an idea of the neighborhood, it wasn't set up like regular blocks, more like a main road and then a bunch of roads that all looped around and came back to the main one. At first I just figured the guy was lost or something and didn't think much about it. But as I was getting closer to my home and it was getting darker, I saw the truck again. Another thing about my neighborhood was, even though there were lots of houses, everybody pretty much kept to themselves in their house for the most part. So there wasn't really anyone outside this time of night, even though it was kind of early. So I came out of the neighborhood onto the road to my house, and the truck is there again. This time just parked on the side of the road. I turned onto the road to my house and it started moving, driving slowly behind me with the lights out. Now, if you know anything about basset hounds, they are not exactly the most threatening kind of dogs. They are short and stubby, kind of like a big Dachshunds, with these giant ears and goofy faces. So even though Rufus was a big dog, he wasn't exactly the greatest guard dog. They also don't walk very fast and tend to trip over their ears when they run. So I was stuck with him setting the pace. And with him waging almost as much as I did, it's not like I could reach down and pick him up and try to run or anything. So here I am, walking down the dark road in the quiet neighborhood with my slow-ass dog and this creepy-ass truck behind me. I knew I couldn't really run for it, and doubted that anyone would hear if I even tried to scream or something, if someone came after me. So finally I came up with a plan, even if it was probably a stupid one. When I got to one of handful of street lights on the street, I stopped and turned around and just stared the truck down. The truck stopped moving and just kind of sat there, about 30 feet away from me, like it was trying to look like it was parked or something. I stood there and stared at the truck for what felt like forever, but was probably around 2 or 3 minutes. Finally, after a while, the truck started moving again, turned on its light and turned off down other road. And I booked into someone's backyard and took the backyards to the rest of the way home. I never told my mom about the creepy truck, because I knew she'd freak out and probably wouldn't let me take the dog out anymore. Down the hall. My name is Kyle and I live in a haunted house in Edmonton, Alberta. Well, at least my mom and brother thought so at first, but I was a little skeptical that the house was haunted until something happened to me personally. I'm 19 now, but the story takes place when I was 17 and in the middle of August. First off, I list the events that happened to my mom and brother predating the event that happened to me. My mom and brother have both had cases of sleep paralysis in the house, which had never happened before we moved in. They both told me their experience went like this. They felt like someone was slowly pushing down or sitting on their chest while they were sleeping and would wake up with no one on top of them and being unable to speak or move, which is quite scary when you think about it, being helpless like that. Another thing that has happened to both my mom and brother was that while they were sleeping or on their bed, something would suddenly out of the blue yank off the covers and scare the absolute shit out of them. My brother has had this happen to him multiple times, whereas my mom has only had it happen to her once. My brother also experienced the same thing as I did, but 2 weeks before I had it happen to me, and he didn't tell me this until the day I saw what he did. Now that you know the predating events, I'll tell you my story. It was a weekend and my mom had left to take my brother to Saucer, while I was at home in my room playing video games with my buddy. After we had stopped playing, I turned Discord off, and after saying goodbye to my friend, and turned my PC off and sat on my bed and opened up YouTube to watch some of my favorite YouTubers, and I had just uploaded a video. While I'm laying on my bed, I hear the dishes in the sink in the kitchen down the hall start rattling, and then I begin to hear the cabinets being opened and closed. Me being stupid and thinking it's just my mom back from the Saucer with my brother, when they had just left 30 minutes ago and Saucer usually takes like 2 hours. I peek my head out of my door and down the hall to see if it's them. To my shock, it wasn't them. Instead, I see a black mist-like shadow person standing at the end of the hall that leads into the kitchen. In complete awe of what I'm seeing, I just stare at this thing, unable to process what is in front of me. After what seems like a minute or two, I dip back into my room and slam the door shut and sit against it. I remembered my phone was on my bed and slide over to it and text my mom and ask her what the F I should do. She tells me to get the hell out of the house and go stay at a friend's until she get back home with my brother. So I do that. I look outside my door and down the hallway to see if it's clear. Lucky for me, it was. Gathering my courage and grabbing my longboard, I booked it down the hall and out of the door of my house, grabbing my shoes on the way and stopping on the driveway to put them on. As soon as I had them on my feet, I plopped my board on the ground and started off almost wiping out in my hurry and ride over to the friend's house who I was previously playing games with before the shit hit the fan. Once I get there, he lets me in and we sit down and I tell him what I saw. To my surprise, he believes me, and he tells me one time while he was staying the night at my house, he saw what I saw in the kitchen. While he was waking up in the night on the couch which is in the living room next to the kitchen, he saw dark figures standing in the kitchen, staring down the hall towards my family's room, including my own room. Apparently he thought it was a dream since he was still half asleep and groggy as hell, so he didn't say anything about it and the next day just went on with the fun we were having. Once my mom had gotten home and we felt okay since we had numbers, we decided to enter the house. As soon as we were inside, we could tell that someone or something has been there since all the dishes in the sink were stuck on the counter beside the sink and all of the cabinets were hanging wide open and the dishes inside has been stuck on the counter as well. We decided not to stay the night there and stayed at our cousin's who lived 15 minutes away in Sherwood Park. When we got home, everything was back to normal except the lights in the house were on. Ever since that happened, I am a firm believer of ghosts and the supernatural. The Shadow Man. I have few short experience to tell. This all started when I was about 12, I'm 19 now. My sister Zoe, father, stepmother at the time, and her 2 daughters, Jade my age and Maddie my sister's age, were camping. We had only been there for a day and everything was fine. Then me and my sister decided we were going to go to the stream by ourselves. My father gave us a walkie-talkie so we could keep in contact while we were gone. Now the place we were going to was surrounded by bush, and to go there you had to go down a little path through it. We spent a while with our shoes off and splashing in the water when Jane said she could see someone standing amongst the trees. We all looked and saw a figure. It was black, but you could tell it was the shape of a man. You couldn't see the face. We stared for a few seconds and then he disappeared. We forgot about it and kept playing in the water. But I feel a little bit uneasy. A while later we all looked back, wanting to know if he's still there, and he was. Everything was silent. I could hardly hear the rapids in the little stream. We stopped looking. After about 20 minutes we headed back to the campsite. My sister lingered behind and I was about 20 meters ahead of them, but we couldn't see each other. I heard a twig snap behind me and I turned to look, assumed they had caught up to me. Nope, I turned to see all the dark black figure literally a foot behind me. So I started running. The whole time I could feel him close behind. I ran as fast as I could until I was out in the open campground. He was gone. My sisters came out not long after and I told them what happened. I asked, but none of them have seen him behind me. They were too far behind and the path was windy, so they were around the corner from me most of the time. Throughout our camping trip, we didn't see him around as much, but occasionally would see him just standing there. Fast forward a couple of years and we go back there, with my father's new girlfriend and her daughter Stella. I can't recall this trip as much, but I know for a fact that Stella saw him too. 3 years ago I started seeing him at my effing house, just anywhere and everywhere really. One day I was in a backyard and I started to lean down to pet my cat, when in my peripheral vision I saw him right behind me. I ignored him as he never really done anything harmful yet. Look slowly at my cat as to block him out. As I do, I feel a hand grab my hair and tug. I immediately spun around. Nothing there. I F off inside and I was a bit spooked. I now live with my boyfriend and can't say 100% if I seen it again. I sometimes see shadows move behind me in the reflection of the TV, but when I look behind me there's nothing, so I just chuck it up to the trick of the light. I did hear something recently. This is the most recent event I had. My boyfriend's alarm went off for work, waking me up too. He switched it off but lay in bed a bit longer. I was awake then, facing my boyfriend's back, one eye closed and it was smooshed against the pillow. Suddenly, I shit you not, I hear someone whisper my name in my ear. It was so clear and I could even feel cold breath on me. I sat up and said to my boyfriend, "Did you say my name?" He looked confused. He was just sitting there playing on his phone. No, he said, he hadn't, which I believed, because it was a female voice. This doesn't really relate to my other experiences, but I thought I'd throw it in anyway. Scariest experience with my friends ever. I'm 14 and this happened to my best friends and I about 3 or 4 years ago. It was my friend, who I'll call Anna. It was Anna's birthday, so she had invited me and our other friend, who I'll call Sandy, to go to our school park and hang out. Now you should know that our whole school is on the top of the huge severe pipes and surrounded by woods. We were goofing off at the edge of the woods when we found a trail we have never seen before, and being the troublemakers we were and still are, we decided to go see where it led to. Sandy led the way, being as she was the most reckless of three. Anna and I took it slower on the other hand, because we didn't know what we would find and where it would lead or what would happen. After what was about 5 minutes of walking, the path came to a small bend. We went around to see a small stream, which had about a foot above it, on the old pipe openings. It was open tall and wide enough where we could fully stand up in it. I remember things that other kids would tell Anna and I on the bus about these pipes. The one that scared me the most was about the pipe man. The pipe man was said to live in the pipe, and anytime he got hungry, he would go and kidnap little girls, sexually assault them, kill them and eat them. Then he would bring what was left of them to some of the train tracks running through the town. So of course, me being the scared little shit I was at that age, I got really uneasy. Sandy and Anna though, they wanted to see what was down there in the pipeline and kept trying to convince me until they did. We went maybe 3 or 4 feet in, but it got too dark and we couldn't see. The smell, it smelled so bad in there that we were gagging and had to get out. Naturally, being Anna's birthday, Sandy and I were sleeping over her house. At this time we were all curious about what is in the pipe. So as we left the front of the trail, Anna took off her hat and put it in front of the trail. We had planned on coming back in the morning, prepared this time. Her mom agreed to letting us go back. Another fact about those woods, They wrap around and led to the old state school cemetery, so that made everything creepier. Knowing that there could be more bodies hidden in the pipe, that there were no room to bury. The next morning, when we go back to the park and went to find where Anna had left her hat, it was gone. So we put it off as some jerky-ass kid took it. We still found the trail, of course, and couldn't hold our excitement or fear as we approached the bend. Putting on our masks so we couldn't smell the horrible smell, turning on our flashlight, we enter. We walked pretty far down the pipe before things got weird. We could no longer see where we came in, and when we were finding what we assumed to be animal bones, although Anna and I also kept the thought of Pipe Man. Sandy, of course, the leader, walked about 15 more feet ahead before stopping and screaming. Anna and I, of course, have never heard her scream like that before, and ran up to her. We looked at what she was pointing at and couldn't believe our eyes. It was Anna's hat. Her effing hat was way down in the pipeline. We ran out of there faster than we have ever moved before, leaving her hat behind. We made it out of the pipe, panting and gasping for breath. Never have I ever been so scared. But the story doesn't end there. Before we even started back up the trail, we heard a branch snap behind us. I was the one to turn around, to see a tall man who was very dirty looking and had very messy hair. We ran again all the way up the trail. As far as we know, our worst fear came true. The pipeman was real. We could have been his next meal, but we were lucky enough to make it out alive, except for some scratches here and there from running into branches. Sandy, Anna and I have never told anyone this, and we will probably deny it if it asks about it. The park has since been torn down, but the trail remains. None of us will go down there ever again. But Sandy and I have no problem playing sports right at the football and softball fields, just as long as there are some adults here with us. So Pipeman, if you're watching this, we best never meet. Thank you guys for stopping by, and since you are already here, please subscribe, comment and hit the like button. And if you have a scary story to share, feel free to send it to me. My email is in the description box. Stay safe and I'll see you soon.